Yes, the game was.
Breakfast at
Call this meeting to order.
8:30 in the morning.
Please rise and join the committee.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome. Give you notice that this meeting is being electronically recorded. First item is a community update, school-sponsored events by a student representative to the school committee, Mr. Keith Drucker.
Thank you, Mr. Tyler. Here are our school-sponsored events. For district-wide, on November 21st to the 23rd, there will be no school, and that's for the Thanksgiving holiday. On December 5th, there will be an early release day. There will be no morning or afternoon preschool. On December 20th, the ACE-PAC Parent Support Night will be held at 7 p.m. in the Brennan Middle School Library. At Attleboro High School on November 30th, Trimester 1 final exams will be given, and that will be a half day for students. And on December 3rd and 4th, the Trimester 1 final exams will also be given, and that will also be a half day for students. On December 5th, Trimester 2 begins, and on December 5th, Financial Aid Night will be held at 6 p.m. in the Bray Auditorium. For the middle schools, at Brennan on November 29th, the grade 7 team breakfast and project presentations will be held for parents. And on December 4th at Brennan, the school council meeting will be held at 3:30 p.m. At Coelho on December 12th, their PTO meeting will be held at 6:30 p.m. And on December 13th at Coelho, the second quarter progress reports will be distributed. Finally, at Wamsutta on November 30th, the student-faculty basketball game will be held. The elementary schools at Hill Roberts on November 20th, their PTO meeting will be held at 7 p.m. in the library. On November 27th, Hill Roberts School Council meeting will be held at 4:30 p.m. also in the library. On November 30th, the grade 4 chorus will be performing at the Providence Bruins. At Hyman Fine on November 27th, their school council meeting will be held at 4 p.m. And on November 28th, their PTO meeting will be held at 6:30 p.m. in the library. At Studley on November 26th, the Alan Sean Feinstein will visit, and that's at 9 a.m. And also at Studley on November 28th, the ELL workshop will be held from 6 to 7:45 p.m. At Thatcher and ELC on November 28th, the Math Parent Support Night will be held from 6:30 to 7:15 p.m. in the cafeteria. That's for grades 3 and 4, adults only. And finally, at Willett on November 15th, the focus group for the superintendent search will be held at 6:30 p.m. in the library.
Thank you, Keith. This is time for open forum. Open forum, this is the time when members of the public may address the school committee. Open forum is not a time for committee members to engage in dialogue with members of the public. Guidelines for open forum are available to you up at the podium. Please know that we are interested in what you have to say, but we cannot respond without background information on your issue. Please come forward to the podium and state your name and address. We have nobody that wishes to speak at open forum. Okay. Moving on to our consent agenda. We have a motion to vote to accept the donation of $2,246.25 from Feinstein Foundation to the Studley School for the Junior Scholar T-shirts.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, if I may say, on Monday, November 26th at 9 a.m., Alan Sean Feinstein will be coming to Studley School to hold the event with the students there, and I'd like to invite members of the committee and any member of the community who would like to come. So it'll be a great event for the school, so please feel free and let us know. So that's 9 a.m. on Monday, November 26th. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Durkin. Okay, next on the new business, we have a special presentation tonight on Dr. Durkin, if you can lead us off on this.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I can ask Jonathan Giara and Morgan Martini to please come up, the two students who are this year's recipients, just sit, of the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Excellence Award. And I want to share a little bit about these two incredibly great kids, if I may say it. Mr. Sur and I had the pleasure of having lunch with them today. We had a spirited discussion about things that are working well at the high school and things that, in retrospect, of what they would like to share with those students coming up. But I want to talk a little bit about each of them individually. They are quite amazing. They've had many amazing accomplishments. And first I'll speak about Morgan Martini. Morgan took her first AP course as a sophomore, and she would have completed 6 by graduation. Am I correct? And she has scored 4s and 5s in a variety of areas. She is interested in math and science. Not sure yet, but today we talked about neuroscience and may consider either patient practice or research. But extremely involved with how the brain works and is taking an AP psychology course to determine that. Her passion has been Special Olympics, where she has not just been a member, but she has been intensely involved and has helped develop Project Unite and Team Up. She's demonstrated, her guidance counselor talks about her demonstrating a commitment to a cause, impeccable attention to detail, and a compassionate, caring attitude toward all students. In her spare time, she was inducted in the National Honor Society in spring of 2012. She also is a recipient of the very prestigious Rensselaer Medal. She is a member of the Spanish National Honor Society, Spanish II Honors Award, and the English I Honors Award. And she plays volleyball and is involved in sports. Mr. Jonathan Giara, and she has a weighted GPA of 98.13. Mr. Jonathan Giara, I'm not meaning to laugh at that, but it just seems daunting that after 4 years you would have all that to do and still show your brilliance and keep your grades up as well as you do. Jonathan Giara, he will have completed 5 AP classes by graduation, again scoring 4s and 5s. His interest is in math and science. He entered senior year thinking that he would probably go to college and specialize in biology. However, he, by a certain turn of events, ended up taking AP Computer Science this year, and his interests have now branched out to biochemistry, biochemical engineering, and neurology. So we've got 2 budding, as I consider, Nobel Peace Prize winners and definitely science winners in the future. And he is considering how to combine biology with computer science. He has been 4 years on the class council, 4 years on the student council. He is one of those individuals who has stepped up to the plate in terms of leadership and just finished planning with members of his staff the student council lock-in. I want to say lock-in. I don't want to say the wrong word, which provides leadership training for membership. And tomorrow we conclude Spirit Week, which he was sharing with me some of the activities that are going to go on. And oh boy, this high school is going to have a lot of fun tomorrow. But John himself has attended 3 years of conferences in leadership training. He has been a member of, he received the Commonwealth Award in 2010 for the Massachusetts Association of Student Councils. He's also a member of the Spanish National Honor Society. He was a junior year inductee into the National Honor Society, recipient of the Lemoyne College Book Award, and has been the Boys State representative in June 2012. He also has played golf, winter track, spring track, and has a weighted GPA of 100.21. So with that, I would like these students to share a little bit about themselves. They are both graduates of Hyman Fine and Wamsutta, so it says an awful lot about who they are. Mr. Sawyer and I enjoyed talking with them, but I'd like them to share their perspectives. They truly are the hope of Attleboro High School and represent the best and the brightest. So please, whoever wants to start first. Okay, Morgan. All right, go.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Durkin. So I'd like to start out, I want to talk about what I think the younger people of Attleboro High School should do to make themselves better people, make their community better. I highly suggest joining a lot of clubs and sports because it's a really great way to make friends. And when you're walking through the halls and in class, it's nice to feel that friendly environment. It makes you want to come to school more. So it's just a really great thing. And in the end, it's rewarding. Of course, it makes for a better resume also. I also suggest taking AP courses because even if you don't pass the course, you're still learning a lot of different skills. And especially since it's all year long, you get very close with your teachers and your fellow classmates. Let's see. And it definitely prepares you for college, the workload and the type of material. And it helps you figure out what you want to do in life. Let's see. Definitely start freshman year keeping relationships with teachers. That's a good thing. Throughout your high school career, you want to keep a relationship with teachers for recommendations. And Miss Thibodeau told me that freshman year, and she was right. And I did that, and it was a good idea. Another thing is I would start college applications early. That's definitely one thing.
We both said that today.
Yes. I'm the oldest kid in my family. So it was, at first it was very foggy to know what to do. And so starting early would help to clear that up, I think so. And if you have questions, ask them. Go to your guidance counselor. Go to Dr. Durkin. Go to Mrs. York. There's a lot of people you can go to. Let's see. And keep a balance in your life. It's not all academic. Keep a social balance. Keep an academic balance. Get enough sleep. Because they all affect each other. And don't get too bogged down with everything. Always remember high school is supposed to be fun. Always make sure you have friends, things like that. And I want to give a special thanks to my parents, my brother Nick, Mrs. York, Mrs. Simon, and Mr. Janicki for unconditional support through my college application process. Miss Izzy, Mrs. Larson, Mrs. Medeiros for being reliable teachers that I always go to. And Dr. Durkin for the much appreciated award. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Warren.
All right, so I'm pretty much going to say, almost what all of Morgan said. But yeah, she was right. For the underclassmen and, the middle schoolers who are coming up to the high school, I would say definitely take challenging classes, take AP classes, because even if you do take honors, you're not getting the same type of challenge that you are going to take as an AP class. Last year I took English honors, and now I'm taking AP Lit, and I can say the AP Lit class is definitely preparing me better for college, especially writing essays. We're writing essays every week now, and it really prepares you. And then what Morgan also said, it helps you steer you in what path you want to go in life. Before taking the AP Computer Science class, I wasn't entirely sure if I wanted to do computer science, but now I want to incorporate that with biology. And with biology, I also got that interest by taking AP Bio sophomore year. And then also get involved in the school. The school offers many sports activities. So I would say just find what you love, because I fell in love with student council, and there it creates a positive environment. You create a different group of friends than what you grew up as and come to the high school with. So you're able to interact with other people, and then it's just a great experience. And so in closing, I'd like to thank my family, all my teachers for being there, and especially to Miss Nesland for guiding me since freshman year in student council. And thank you, Dr. Durkin.
You're welcome. And just to give a picture of where these terrific students are thinking about Tufts University, Brown University, staying on the East Coast, which is good for families, far enough that you can have your own lives, but nice enough that mom and dad can still see them. But I explained to them, and Mr. Sawyer and I said that any college would be lucky to have you, but they have an awful lot to offer. And the only thing I ask is that you come back and share with your underclassmen all your success. I also would like to thank the families who are here tonight. Thank you for giving us your children. You've had an awful lot of trust in us, and you should be so proud of them. And I would like to now present you with the 2 awards. And it basically says, Morgan Martini and Jonathan Giara, having duly qualified under the standards prescribed by the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents, is hereby awarded the Certificate of Academic Excellence. In witness thereof, the seal of the association and the signature of the Superintendent of Schools are affixed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Morgan and Jonathan, first of all, congratulations.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Well deserved. Very impressive resumes at the high school level. I can't wait to see what they would look like when you're done with the college level. Pretty amazing people and well deserving. Do we have any comments anybody would like to say from the rest of the committee?
I'd just add my congratulations to Jonathan and Morgan. And as you were talking about some of the things that you wanted to make sure that you remind your fellow students and some of the students that will be coming through the high school after you, I would just say that you should also make sure that you keep in mind your own lessons as well. So when you get to Tufts or when you get to Brown or wherever you end up next, find the Mr. Janicki or find the Miss Neslin on that campus and make sure you continue to build those relationships so you can benefit from them in the future. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Keith, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Tyler. I just have one thing. I've been longtime classmates with John and Morgan going all the way back to Hyman Fine, so I just wanted to extend my congratulations and say that they're definitely worthy recipients of the award.
Thank you, Keith.
Thanks, Steve.
I would like to add, Morgan and Jonathan, the school committee has their own award that we use called the Soaring Eagle, and we use it to recognize students whose achievements deserve special recognition. Even though we're sure you have plenty of certificates and awards at home with those impressive resumes, Mr. O'Neill and Mr. Larson would like to present those from the Attleboro School Committee. So again, we wish you all the luck in the world moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay, so the Soaring Eagle Award from the Attleboro School Committee proudly presents the certificate of commendation to Jonathan Giara and Morgan Martini in recognition of their being named a recipient of the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Certificate of Academic Achievement. Say that 10 times fast. Signed Michael Tyler, Chairman of the Attleboro School Committee. This is Jonathan's.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Great
you very
job.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Parents want to say anything? I just don't, I mean, Grandpa came and lots of brothers and everybody came. Anybody want to say anything?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Very
okay?
proud.
All right.
Folks.
Thank you very much. Next item on the new business, we have the middle school, whole school improvement plan.
Yes, we do. We have the principals and administrators from Coelho, Brennan, and Wamsutta. I'd like to call them up, Ms. Saltzman, Mr. Boles, and Ms. Coffin. And you have the whole school improvement plans that were presented to you. This is a process that goes through many different drafts, including school council input and teacher input. And I'd like to call attention to, we have the assistant principal from Brennan, Mr. Bryant is here, assistant principal from Coelho, Ms. Fortin, our teacher from Coelho, Mr. Ben Harris, assistant principal from Wamsutta, Mr. Lamore, and the two teachers in the back, I don't know why you're sitting all the way back there, from Brennan, Miss Duffy and Miss Marcette, who are our math and literacy coach. So I thank you all for being here. And we're going to start with, we're not going through every item of the plan, as you could see, but the three principals met and wanted to focus on three areas. Mr. Boles is going to start with the focus on student achievement and growth. Ms. Coffin is going to go through how do we hold the bar for different populations of children that come to our doors, keeping that bar very high. And Ms. Saltzman is going to focus on how the adults manage to make sure students are achieving and growing in making progress. So, Mr. Boles.
Thank you, Dr. Durkin. Thank you, School Committee, for allowing us to present our WSIPs this evening. The first goal is the Student Achievement and Learning Goal. Just a little brief background on this goal is the state has set new guidelines on how they're assessing the schools in the district. Even though our target areas are very much different among the schools, our goal is still the same, to increase student performance and student achievement while lessening the achievement gap. So what I'd like to do is highlight a few things that the Coelho Middle School is doing in order to achieve our goal in the target areas. One of the first things we did at Coelho Middle School in its regards to student achievement was we looked at the delivery of service for our special education students. In the past, our special education students, a small population, had been removed outside the general classroom setting and had a sub-separate setting where their content and curriculum was delivered in a smaller setting for them for the purpose of getting remediation. We saw through the data that was analyzed that they hadn't been meeting the benchmarks set forth by the state. So we're happy to say that this year we have actually implemented these small groups of students into the general classroom and allowed to provide more supports in the classroom with them, with a special educator inside the classroom along with a content specialist teacher. So for example, in our grade 5 program, we have a content ELA person and a special educator in the classroom helping all the students to succeed and gain access to the general curriculum. The second thing we did across the school is create common writing assessments along with the district common writing assessments. Our data showed that writing in ELA for Coelho was very poor and that we need to improve sort of the expectation of what we want out of our students as they go to Attleboro High School. So what we decided to do as a part of the leadership team, along with the teachers and the staff, is really say, how can we get the kids and the students writing more frequently and at a higher rate with more of a higher expectation? So what we did was we created, along with the district common assessments, outside of that, each subject area will have a requirement of how many common assessments they're doing within a grade level. For example, the LA classes, along with the social studies classes, will have common assessments that they'll evaluate and give indicators of the students' strengths and weaknesses, and then give critical feedback on how the students can increase their performance level. Social studies, like I said, will be doing 3 common assessments amongst the grade levels, and also not just ELA in social studies and the humanities, but also math and science. It is important with the new sort of system that the state is moving forward to how students are evaluated, that students need to write in all subject areas, because that's what they're going to be evaluated on, and that's what they are evaluated on. And we have noticed in the past, even though our math scores are much better than our ELA scores, our open response scores in math still need some improvement. And also, one of the greatest initiatives I think within the school is our unified arts are also taking on the initiative of writing in the classroom. So it is not uncommon if you go through Coelho Middle School, one of our art classes, they created images of fall, and they also wrote a poem to go along with that image, and it was graded and it was scored against an ELA rubric. And lastly, one of the things we really want to highlight at Coelho Middle School is our academic enrichment. In our academic enrichment, it's during their block where the students get an extra remediation time. What we looked at was, what are we providing for remediation for the students, and how are we providing this remediation? So what the teachers have taken on the initiative is giving the kids prescribed strategies to better themselves, not only in the academic sense of MCAS, but in their general content and curriculum. So for instance, Mr. Ben Harris's team, he's an 8th grade teacher. In his social studies class for academic enrichment, they may be looking at a primary source in ELA or social studies, but they're using ELA writing strategies to increase their performance through social studies. A primary text on Charlemagne, or a primary text on a Vikings passage to the New World. These are the type of things that are reinforced across the curriculum. And then with the help of our literacy coach, Donna Goldstein, we've made it mandatory that the teachers, along with the students, model 20 minutes of sustained silent reading, in which they're measured at the end of each quarter with a reading program that shows the amount of reading that they're doing and how that relates to their test scores. So at this point in time in the program, I'd like to turn on over to Karol Coffin, the principal at Wamsutta.
The goal number 2, curriculum planning and assessment, I just want to touch on briefly. This is in all 3 of the school improvement plans, and the significance of this is the instruction and aligning with the new standards, the Common Core. So you see that in all of these plans. Moving on to teaching all students. As you know, we have received a commendation again this year for closing the achievement gap. And I do want to address with you the fact that something like this occurs because of things that have happened over several years. It's not something that you can do in just 1 year and sustain over a period of time. So you need to build on what you create. At Wamsutta, this building really started with the lesson protocol. It started with ensuring that all of our staff were trained in Category 4 training, which is in ESL learning strategies, which are also applicable to special education students and to all students. So the implementation of that allowed us to have a common language throughout the school and to establish common expectations in the learning environment. The focus on vocabulary at Wamsutta, there is a focus on vocabulary, and there has been for the past 3 years in every class, every day. There is a focus on vocabulary. We are also a reading school and promote reading and all aspects of reading and work to build the capacity of our students not only to increase their fluency in their reading capacity, but increase their comprehension. And there again, we go back to these strategies that everyone is trained in, everyone understands, and the implementation of those strategies to make them effective for all children. We have a focus on writing that's consistent throughout. You heard that from Mr. Boles, that's part of the focus in the first goal. It's also the focus in the third goal. Student participation expectations is something that we really started to narrow in on last year in ensuring that all students are expected to participate in every class every day. Students who in the past may have been allowed to not answer something or have been given extra supports, they would still receive those supports, but then they would be expected to turn that support into an action or a participation in the class. So that has turned out to be a great benefit to our students that in the past would have been somewhat shy, may not have had the confidence to speak, and now we're finding that all of our students, when they come into class, they know that in all likelihood they are going to be called upon and they need to be prepared and ready to answer. We have also focused this year and are beginning to focus on something that we call visible thinking strategies. One of them, we have 4 focus areas for our visible thinking strategies. One of them is this idea of students' participation, but it's followed up in that if a student answers a question, they answer it incorrectly or they don't know the answer, the teacher would then go to several other students and come back to that original student to reinforce that that child did understand what the lesson was, what the answer was, and why, so that that student could participate as well. We are very focused on thinking and students explaining thinking. So questions teachers ask of students require an answer that may have analysis in it, it may have interpretation in it, but it's going to have some thinking involved. Then when we have student groups and they're working in smaller groups, the expectation is they will be able to explain to one another in depth what they're doing, why they're doing it, and the content of whatever the activity is. So this is a tremendous shift because we're moving toward those pre-AP type of activities and those pre-AP expectations to help these students prepare for high school. It is critical to do this, and we expect that of all students, regardless of what designation or target they may have, and the learning difficulty that they may have or the language difficulty that they may have. The expectation is everyone participates and everyone is able to explain their thinking. And this is a major shift across the board, and it is consistent with the Common Core. So we are doing that. And another thing that's really helped and allowed us to increase the success of our students is over the last several years, the staff itself has increased their capacity to analyze data. Not only analyze the data, but then turn around and use that data with the children. So if they see test scores or they see a certain standard that is not, the students are not scoring exceptionally well on, or even if it's an individual student, what strategies can we put together that will help that child or those groups of students that need that support? So these are the kind of steps that we have put in place. And again, this is a building process that each year we continue those strategies that we've learned that are effective, and then we add to them the following year, or we enhance them to make them more effective for all of the children. And now I will turn it over to Ms. Saltzman.
Thank you. Ms. Coffin and Mr. Boles talked a lot about how students are learning. The fifth goal that we all have in common in our plans has to do with professional cultures. And whether we're talking about collaborative inquiry of teachers when we get them together, or an open culture of learning, or we're talking about reflective practice, we each have about the same vision of what we expect of our professional learning communities. We all have a lot of professional learning communities, such as we have grade level meetings, specialist team meetings, we have data meetings, instructional leadership team meetings, staff meetings, student support team meetings, and special education network meetings. And all of these together, whether they're smaller or larger groups, we all tend to have the expectation that we're seeing teachers getting together and in a collaborative style discussing issues related to the classroom or their teaching practice. And this year too, with the new evaluation system, teachers were able to develop individual and or team goals. And at Brennan, most of the teachers did decide at one point to develop team goals together, usually by their grade levels. And the development of team goals gave them a deeper sense of purpose in striving to exact improvement, no matter what subject area they taught, but they all had the common goal of improvement and in growth for the students. They collaboratively share their common goals of improving achievement and growth for their students, which will be attained through all of their collective efforts. For example, right now, teacher teams are focusing on the implementation of the Common Core literacy standards in all subject areas, meaning they're taking those reading and writing strategies that you've just already heard talked about, and they're implementing them into science, social studies, even the arts, music, health, multimedia areas, because they're asking students to use their reading strategies and their writing strategies within those content areas that they will do open response writing in, or they will get a score in something, or actually they're working on the vocabulary in those areas. They also have plans to provide increasing opportunities for staff to conduct peer observations, and by inviting each other's into others' classrooms so they can learn their practices to see if they'll be appropriate for use in their classrooms. And we also are inviting them to join in on district and building-based learning walks. We're finding that it's a great deal of professional development that we can provide right within our own buildings for teachers to see other teachers in their practice. And they definitely appreciate what goes on in other teachers' classrooms that way as well. And we're struggling, but we continue to find time to allow within our schedules for the teachers to get together so that they can constantly be collaborating together and really reflecting through the use of possibly the administrators facilitating the process, or even the instructional coaches to help with teachers to be pointing out different strategies that may be appropriate for them to implement in their classrooms. I'm going to share one example that really substantiates the power of collaboration among teachers that was exemplified in our grade 5 teachers last year. As we got the results of the 2011 ELA data, they were devastated with the scores that their students had received. Not so much even the proficiency levels, but they were devastated with the growth level. They had a growth level of 28. And at the same time, through the district, we were working on having the cross collaboration between 4th and 5th grade. We administrators and teachers went and visited the other grade levels to see what strategies were working, to see what we needed to do to help the transition of students coming from 4th to 5th grade. As we went through that, the grade 5 teachers were in constant talk about what they had seen in the 4th grade classrooms. They began to immediately implement those strategies into their classrooms. And I could not walk even down into the 5th grade areas where they would not be telling me what they were trying, how it worked, and it was a constant focus for them all year long. And it wasn't just the ELA teachers, it was the math and science teachers and social studies as well, all just kind of joining in and trying these new practices and finding success with that. And it was exacted at the end of the year when they, this year, their 5th grade growth score went to a 56. granted, it was a different group of students, and the proficiency rates went from 62 to 70% in ELA. So they felt there was a great deal to celebrate there. Plus, they had worked collaboratively on this effort. And again, the students that had the low scores, they went into 6th grade. Those 6th grade teachers knew they needed to have a lot of work too, and they focused and targeted their interventions on them. And they actually ended up improving the growth scores for those students went to like 56 last year too. The one other thing that we struggle with, we strive to improve upon every year, are our family and community engagement. We work hard. We'll plan evening events, and it's hard for us to get parents there after they work a full day. It could be a one-car family, and they're working double shifts, whatever. But we do struggle with that. But we continue to have to improve the ability for parents to join us in our schools. We want to improve the frequency of the two-way communication. We do a lot of the school connects. We have school newsletters that go out. We have our school web pages, and we get news out there as best we can. But we want to keep having it come back the other way. I mean, we do get calls when parents are concerned about a particular issue, they will call us. But we do want to have them feel like it's more of an open feeling. I think sometimes parents feel much more like there's an open door. Going into an elementary school, they feel it's not quite as warm and welcoming, or it's harder for them to figure out how to volunteer and assist with us at the middle schools. So we have been looking for ways to improve that. I know that I saw ways that you brought parent volunteers in. At Brennan, we had brought them into our library. We currently this year have a couple of parents coming into 5th grade to help out with station work. So we want to encourage and do that more. And the other thing that we want to do is we want to be able to have more public presentations of student work. Whether we do that at nighttime events, and then the parents will definitely come to see their children perform, but also so we can get it out there, the good things that the students are learning and accomplishing at school.
I think I would have one question on this. I mean, I think last time we met, we had the whole school improvement plan from the high school, and they kind of talked about to make that work, they really had to be involved with the middle school, especially on that. So can you give some examples of what you have done to outreach or have a collaborative relationship with the elementary to prepare them for your whole school plan that you're,
We have, being in the middle, we connect with the high school and we connect with the elementary schools. Last year we spent all year with the school, the 4th grade teachers and the 5th and 6th grade teachers, sharing back and forth, visiting back and forth between the schools to understand what that transition meant for 4th graders coming into 5th graders. And how is that academic, how is that socially, and what is the expectation for those children. We do the same thing at the other level with the 8th graders going to the high school. We have the high school people come down once a month to the middle school to share something about the high school. We send teachers to the high school to take a look at classes there. We do the same thing with the 4th grade. We send our 5th grade teachers to the elementary to look at the classes there. So we reach both ways because we need to make sure that these children are able to transition from elementary with the focus on high school and beyond.
Thank you, Karol.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
Mike, first of all, thank you for the presentation. Every time the whole school improvement plans come before us, it becomes very obvious the complexity of running these buildings and all the different issues that you have to confront on a daily basis, and that certainly extend to the teachers and other administrators in the audience as well. We've talked a lot at this table about the extracurricular programming at the middle school, and I know that it's really a piece of both the engagement and sort of strengthening the instruction. Can anyone sort of expand upon that a little bit and talk a little bit about the opportunities that are available at the middle school level, and to the degree that we have sharing across middle schools? Could anyone comment on those? Or maybe to the degree that we should be sharing across middle schools, if that's something we could do better.
So just for a little clarification, extracurricular meaning within the school day or after
Anything
school?
after school.
Well,
Extending the school day.
one of the greatest things that we have is the availability of late buses on Tuesdays and Thursdays, having 2 buses for Coelho Middle School and other schools. I think that entices a lot more students to stay after and really reap the benefits of the teachers and their willfully staying after to give these kids an enriching experience that ties into their academics and gets them involved in the school community. At Coelho Middle School, what we do is we have a simple expectation. We want all students to take advantage of the activities that we have, but also your academics have to be in good standing in order to meet those requirements. So,
But a good incentive, right?
it's a great incentive because we want to hold, you know, it's not only athletes, but it's scholar athletes. If you're in the band, but it's you're also an academic. It's about building the whole child and making sure that child is prepared. Because we all know if you ever had a high school child, they're running in every which way to get the most out of every opportunity. And it starts at the middle school and elementary school levels. They need to know how to budget their time. They need to how to maximize what is offered to them. At Coelho Middle School, the kids sign up and they don't have to be sort of pigeonholed to one sort of after-school activity. They can sign up for a different activity on a weekly basis. So for instance, we have everything from Zumba to field hockey to after-school study island, homework club. We have a ton of different activities. And one of the greatest things, I think, is when students take the initiative and say, hey, Mr. Boles, Ms. Fortin, I'd really like to see this club or activity. Could you help us get it started? Absolutely. All we need to do is find a teacher that'd be willing to stay after school and mentor and watch over the children and guide them through it. And we create activity to support them.
And we do want to thank you because Karen and I sat through some of those budget talks, and we really do want to thank you for the buses this year.
Yeah.
It's
That's
double.
not why I asked the question.
No, but I have to say that
It's huge.
because it is double the number of students that have been
Absolutely.
able to stay after school.
That's good.
That's
the
huge.
important part. Because the one thing I would add to Mr. Boles' point about the high school students who are running every which way and always have something to do after school. Unfortunately, that's not true for all high school students, but there'll be more high school students for whom that can be said about if those habits are built at the middle school level. And we've said often, if you're leaving the high school at 1:50, I mean, Mr. Drucker's here at 7:40, so he may be taking it to an extreme, but if you're leaving the school at 1:50, you're not getting everything out of your high school experience that you can, and those habits have to be built. My other question, just with regard to all the goals, are we incorporating some of the plans both for teachers and students in terms of how they spend their summer and how, to the degree that we need to, not just the programs that we run over the summer, but sort of how we build learning capacity on a year-round basis? Is that something that's incorporated into these plans, or is it something that there's more discussion that needs to be had about? Does anyone want to comment on that? I mean, what happens to students when they leave in June? Is it something that we have to?
We do have the summer reading list that we do encourage our students to keep reading all summer, because we know that's a good practice to get into. We know that they're going to continue to build their comprehension skills and their develop vocabulary, and hopefully retain the skills that they've developed through the year till they come back to us in September. One opportunity that we didn't touch upon that I know is happens for our students is that we have the opportunity of working through Rebecca Rashad's program at the high school. The community service students, they come on down and they come to the 3 middle schools. Our middle schoolers really like to look up to the high school peers as the leaders to them and role models that they can follow on. And I think they learn a great deal from them. They come in and they assist in different classrooms. They usually like to pick, the high schoolers like to go back to teachers that they had in middle school, and they have those connections back there, but I think, and the teachers have the connections with them too, so it makes it a real rich experience going on. And the other thing that we do have at Wamsutta and at Brennan, and we do have Bishop Fian students come in, Spanish students that come in to our Amigos programs. I have it on Tuesdays and you have it on Thursdays. And they meet in the library with our students that maybe are ELL students or whatever, but and Spanish may be the first language in their homes, but it gives them that extra support with homework, and that's another nice pairing and opportunity that we have for our students.
Is that new this year, or has that been?
No, that's been in existence for many, many years. I think at least the last 10 years, I believe. Yeah, it's been a partnership with FIAN that we've had. We are trying to get as much as we want our middle school teachers to see high school. One of the discussion points I've had with Mr. Rooney is having high school teachers go down to the middle school. and take a look as to what our students are learning and doing. And we feel that would be a very healthy other two-way in terms of understanding the skill level, and also not to feel, we felt that was very valuable when middle school went down to 4th grade, when 4th grade teachers, they said, oh my gosh, they've learned that already. You know, we're repeating things that they should already know, and even though as 5th graders they're the youngest ones in middle school, they've already passed, you know, being in elementary school. So it raises the bar and the expectations. So that type of two-way exchange at both levels is challenging to kind of coordinate logistically, but it's well worth it for people to understand expectations at all 3 levels. So.
I mean, that's what I would say. I mean, middle school, and we don't like to single out any of our schools. We love them all, and we have great people in them. But, I mean, what a bridge it is between elementary and high school. What a balancing act that you have to provide.
You have to be flexible, that's for sure.
Exactly. I mean, a great, you know, we appreciate you coming for us tonight. But before we leave, I just want to, I hate singling out again, but I know Wamsutta had a very special visitor recently.
Yes.
Because of achievements. I'd like Karol just to talk about that for a second.
Dr. Ingram, who is the Deputy Commissioner of Education, came to Wamsutta with Dr. Durkin, and he congratulated us for our commendation. And we blessed him with the Wamsutta Wolves t-shirt. But it was wonderful to hear him talk with the students and the staff, to thank them, not only students but staff, everyone together, because it takes the students and the staff working together in order for children to succeed. And he talked about his experiences when he was in 8th grade, shared that with the students, so that right there they felt a connection right away. He was very gracious, and we certainly appreciated him coming and recognizing the efforts that has been put forward.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I made the decision, he was here a very short time. I wanted him to see 2 ends of the spectrum. So he also went to Coelho Middle School for different purposes. As a new principal, Mr. Boles has put forward some very bold plans and saw how the staff is shifting in their culture and working very hard with the leadership of Mr. Boles and Ms. Fortin. And spent a good deal of time in classrooms looking at the data, speaking with the instructional leadership team, and maybe you want to share a little bit of what you felt that accomplished, Mr. Boles.
What it accomplished for us is Brennan and Wamsutta have shown such successes over the years, and Coelho needs to demonstrate the same things and rise to the expectation that we have for. When he came through, he gave us some real concrete and constructive feedback on the things that he thought that we were moving in the right direction with. And it was reaffirming from the sense that this is a gentleman who worked within the Springfield public school system, which has its challenges, and says, you're on the right pathway, which reaffirms us with working with Wamsutta and Brennan that we're moving in the right direction on how every student will and can learn, and how we have to set the bar high for ourselves and also the students. I model for the staff models for the students, and we're all on the same page. I would believe if you asked every one of our students and our staff members what's the expectation, they're very clear. It's true success. So it was nice to see somebody from an outsider coming in to see what the wonderful things that were going on at Coelho and how we're moving forward.
We know as a committee you're doing the right thing, but it is nice to be recognized.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Again, congratulations, and thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry, Brendan.
I know you all do a wonderful job. Karol, I can't thank you enough. Wamsutta has come a long way.
Thank you.
The staff, wonderful. You have a great group. And I can promise you, as long as I'm sitting in the seat, you will have your after-school buses. I will. I will definitely advocate for that. But thank you, and I appreciate the other 2 middle schools. Absolutely. I spend most of my time at Wamsutta. I see the change. I see the difference, and thank you for all that you do, and especially your staff and your paraprofessionals and all that, all the way down actually from your, you know, Sodexo with your janitorial services and your definitely the lunchroom and everything. So you have a great building there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, the next item on the new business is the Enrollment Report by Tom Rose, our business manager.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. In your packets, I believe you have a copy of the memo dated November 13th, Sims report. Pretty straightforward. The first document that you'll see is the actual printout that I was able to obtain from Jen Hodges last week, who works, or excuse me, a week and a half ago, back on the 9th of November. Works very, very hard and does a terrific job in regard to keeping our registrar package up to date, the system up to date, and you'll notice in the top right-hand corner, 5,909. That's the number of students that we're reporting in Sims for FY13. So when we receive in FY14 our funding, it's going to be based on that 5,909 number. Ballpark, it's approximately $10,500 for every student that we report in Sims. And Jen's well aware of the importance of the accuracy of the numbers, and she does a terrific job. The other report, and the 5,909 is then broken out, as you can probably tell, a little further below, and then also on the next page, among the different categories, whether it be among the classes or among the ethnicities. The other item I just want to mention quickly is if you turn to that last page, you'll see an enrollment report dated November 1st. It's almost impossible with a district the size of Attleboro with close to 6,000 students to have the numbers exactly match, because there's so much fluidity across the program and across the school department. But in any case, with a report from the 1st November, you'll notice 5927, difference of approximately 18 students across the district. Sims enrollment, numbers are good, numbers are stable, and we are in a good position as far as funding is concerned for FY14 with this number of 5,909, and I'll try to answer any questions or address any comments you might have regarding enrollment.
Any question? I think it was pretty self-explanatory, Tom, if you will. It was a nice breakdown, that's for sure. Very
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
appreciated. I'm sorry, Bill, go
One
ahead.
quick, I wasn't here last year to see last year's version of this, but the 5,909, just as a point of reference, what was last year's number?
Sure. Last year's number was 5,940. We're going to see some drops from year to year.
Yeah.
Some years we'll see an increase. And as most of you probably know, there are usually 4 or 5 main areas where we're going to see fluctuation. We may have some students that leave. They leave the state. They may leave the country. We may have other students that we determine really need to be placed out of district because their particular special need. When that happens, we lose their number. We may have some students that may choose to transfer to another private school. In certain cases, we may have some students that struggle, and we determine the best approach, the best option, is to put these particular students in the night program. The good news is that they're falling under the Attleboro School umbrella. They're receiving good, strong education, and they're going to get a diploma. The negative information is that that drops our number. And so there are a series of reasons as to why individuals may happen to leave and why the numbers might change, but last year was 5,940.
Thank you.
Bill, to answer your question.
Dave?
Is the reason that formula is broken down that way because many communities don't have night programs? I mean, if we're still providing educational services to them, isn't there an argument that they should be still considered our students?
It's a very good argument, and the answer, Mr. Murphy, is I don't know. I can find out, but I don't know why the students that are, well, I know for a fact that not all schools across the district.
Right, and I
have a
suspect
night
that's
school
why
program.
there isn't a large voice saying, well, of course you should continue to fund us because we're continuing to provide services. Isn't that both the budgetary and educational rationale?
There is no question that that's a true statement.
Right.
What we're doing at Attleboro is very unique and it's fantastic. But what I can do is I can contact the DESC and specifically ask that question as to why.
And the only reason I raise it is that I suspect I think that is the reason. I just don't know if it's a good reason. So if they come back and say that's the reason, but it's not a good one, then I think, you know, maybe we fire up one of our letters to the state legislators or something. But it just doesn't make any sense to me why.
Sure.
Ken?
Mr. Rose, of the 975 career in tech, what defines that number? Like if you're taking one CTE class? It's on the last page. You got 975. Is that just one CTE class? And
I can answer it for you, Tom.
Oh, thanks very much,
It's all the
Dave.
students who are enrolled in any of the CTE programs, whether they're in level 1, 2, or 3, plus every student who's taking Tech Explore, the exploratory program.
okay,
So the number, there should be a significant increase of about 150 students from last year
really?
on that number.
Now, how
Those will get the Chapter 74
Okay.
number for them, not the Chapter 70 money.
and Chapter 74 is about 4,000 more.
Yes.
So.
That's what we anticipate. I mean, I don't want to make any promises until
4,000 though.
the state credits it, but yes.
But that'd be about
That was
100
part of the reasoning for doing it.
Okay, that's great reasoning. Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you, Dave.
Actually, Tom, you may not be able to answer this one. It's
Sure.
probably a hypothetical question, if you will. Has there ever been a survey done with our 9 existing schools, going with our contractual class size? How many students can we actually accommodate on Attleboro until we reach a point where we're looking at a new building? Or has there ever been anything like that done? I don't know if Dr. And I'm not putting anybody on the spot. I'm just kind of wondering off the top of my head.
I don't believe so. That has not been done. We are not a maximum class size. Obviously, some grades we are, but we're not in every grade. So I couldn't answer for you how many students we could have the capacity for. Do you know that, Dave?
I do not know.
No.
I didn't mean to put you on the
No,
spot.
no,
I'm just
that's-
saying it off the top of my
Yeah.
head. I'm just
Yep.
Okay. Do we have any more questions on that? Okay, thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Our last item on the new business is a transportation update by
Yes,
Tom Rose.
there are 3 threads that I would like to address. The first 2 threads are positives in regard to flexibility and showing examples of the good work that the school department's doing, which includes Bloom Transportation. And then the last thread is I'll review the report that you received in your packets. The first thread is just tremendous work by the Thatcher School staff, faculty, parents, students. We did have some issues earlier in the year, specifically where the setup of that school is located and the number of buses they have. We had a queue problem, and the bottom line is we're having difficulty getting students on the bus, particularly departing, as quickly as we wanted to. So worked closely with Kathy Zinni, who does a fantastic job there. She had some good recommendations. Worked also with Bloom Transportation. We made some adjustments to the previous run, which, as you probably know, the departure time for Thatcher is at 3:25. And so worked on the previous run, which involved the Studley School, made some adjustments, got the buses there a little bit quicker, had presence, Kathy has her own army of individuals managing the buses day in, day out, but we also had individuals from Bloom monitoring the times, and situations seem to smooth out significantly over the last couple of weeks. It's still something we're going to have to address, still something we're monitoring, but good progress was made, good cooperation within the school district and also within Bloom Transportation. Also, tied to that, I want to say thanks to the parents who might be listening who've had some adjustments with their child's bus schedule or perhaps their bus stop. Appreciate the patience and the flexibility so many parents have shown. I think we're at a stabilization point now, and going forward, the number of changes should be minimal. The second positive story I want to tell you about is a story that occurred today, where I received an email from a parent requesting a bus stop over in South Attleboro near Newport Avenue. Parent was concerned, hooked up with Bloom Transportation, and within a half hour, no problem, the bus stop is going to be made tomorrow morning. Contacted the parent, and the parent was very happy. So I guess the message I want to convey is that not only are the schools and the staffs of the schools working very very well with the parents and the students, but also we have a transportation company that's also working hard. And it goes without saying that they're supported significantly by our Attleboro School Department, Transportation Office of Terry, and Sue. The last thread that I want to mention regarding the transportation update is the report that I handed out. And I regarding this report, I really have to give the credit to Mrs. Furtado, who put in the request saying, Tom, can you give me a little bit of information about how we made out regarding fee for service? And so the report that you see is really the report I had in my hand when we met back on the 5th. But to be honest with you, I just finished a report earlier in the day, and I did not want to hand it out that night, not give the school committee a chance to take a look at it. But in that particular report that you'll see, it just simply lists the breakdown by school of fee for service. And as most of you probably know, we have 3 different categories. We have the category for the students who live beyond the zone, and therefore they are entitled to transportation, whether that zone is a half mile to a mile and a half, or whatever the zone might be. The second category of students are those students who live within the zone, and they would be the very first set of students that would be considered fee for service, and those are the first set of students we want to put on the bus. And the last category of students are the students who live under or within or below the zone. They're considered walkers. Happy to say, again, thanks to the good work of the Transportation Office and also Bloom Transportation, we're able to put every single student that requested a fee-for-service application, we're able to put them on a bus. And so the numbers are broken down. I think they're fairly straightforward, but at this point, I'll stop and try to answer any questions or address any comments you might have regarding that fee-for-service report.
Question?
No. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ken?
You're welcome, Mrs. Furtado.
Since there seems to be no questions on this report, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to take one quick moment to mention to everyone that last Tuesday night, Mr. Rose presented to the City Council. I think it was his first time up in front of them, and I would just like to say thank you, because sometimes you forget to say thank you, but in this case, you stepped up to the plate and hit multiple home runs. You know? You gave them the information they wanted, and then all the questions they fired at you, you nailed them all. So it was, I just want to say thank you on behalf of myself.
Thank you for your support.
Yeah, Tom, on that point, what is the last information? I know you kind of shared it that night with the McKinley-Binto bill that has to do with the homeless transportation. I
Yes.
think it should be noted, like Ken stated, that the City Council did approve all the deficit funding for such.
Yes.
But there has been a little bit of change from what the city administration had told Tom about that bill. So if you could just touch on that.
Sure. Very briefly, and again, Dr. Durkin deserves a boatload of credit on this, because it was at Dr. Durkin and the Attleboro School Department that got on board as soon as they heard last fiscal year that there could be some possible reimbursement on McKinney-Vento, hopped on, submitted the application, documented the expenses, and now I'm sitting here and taking all the credit, and it's kind of nice. But to be honest with you, I didn't do anything. All I did was take a few phone calls. Long story short, we incurred approximately $125,000 of homeless transportation expenses for the year ending June 30. The initial indication from the mayor's office approximately 6 weeks ago, and he was at a meeting at the State House, was we're going to get a dollar-for-dollar reimbursement. He found out approximately 2 weeks ago, no, that's not the case. We're going to get close, but it's going to, instead of it being approximately $125,000, it's going to be a little under $110,000. But what the mayor did, which was great, is he stepped to the plate and he said, I don't want you and I don't want Dr. Durkin and Dave Sawyer to worry, because we made a promise we would reimburse you. We thought it was going to be dollar for dollar. It's not. What we're going to do, we being the city, is we'll go into our free cash and we'll come up with the difference of about $15,000, and we'll make sure that you're fully funded on McKinney-Vento in FY13. And so there was a little bit of a split of approximately 110 and 15 versus all 125 coming from the state.
Good, Tom.
You're welcome.
Brenda?
Thank you very much for all the information. I just ask next time that if you're ever asked to go before the administration is asked to go before the council, if the school committee could know,
Oh, sure.
because we would love to support you. This is something that, you
Okay.
know, as a committee, and I myself, I know, found out after the fact kind of deal. So if we can just at any
Absolutely.
time know if it's directed to you, that we know, and so I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Mr.
Appreciate
Charles. You're welcome. Thank you.
Any more questions over the transportation update? Okay. Thank you very much, Tom. Moving on to committee reports. Finance, Facility, and Procurement. Mr. Parent.
Okay, we got a couple of warrants to go through. First one dated November 7th, 2012, in the amount of $97,169.90. Appropriations of $83,108.17. Special funds of $19.95. Total federal and state grants of $4,719.51. Encumbered funds of $108. Revolving funds of $9,070.27. The next one dated November 14th, 2012, in the amount of $217,954.74, of which $200,171.91 appropriations. Special funds of $1,234.31. Federal state grants $6,951.71. Revolving funds of $9,596.81. The next finance meeting will be held the 20th of November, which is a Wednesday at 7 p.m. And that, Mr. Chair, concludes our business.
Thank you, Ken. We're going to move on to Curriculum Instruction Subcommittee. Mr. O'Neill, but I just want to let the committee know, Mr. O'Neill is going to also be providing a report. He was our delegate for the school committee for the Massachusetts Association of School Committees conference held down in Hyannis, Mass. So, Mr. O'Neill, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like you said, I attended the MASC conference on, I didn't attend the entire thing. I went on the Friday and Saturday, the 9th and 10th. I attended a handful of lectures and workshops. The highlight of those, I'd like to talk about, one of them was the foundation budget and Chapter 70. So basically, we got the sort of ins and outs of how Chapter 70 works and doesn't work for the school systems of the state. The important thing to note there, and I should be able to provide a copy of this, and I'm sure it's available to us online too. There was a presentation from the Mass Budget and Policy Center, and they are suggesting, but not expecting, a review and revision of Chapter 70 by the legislature, mostly because one of the things they've discovered over the course, they studied everything that the foundation budget does and Chapter 70 does for school systems. And one of the things they discovered was that the foundation budget is sort of slipping away from us in a way that the way it was set up, it accounted for inflation in a number of different categories. What it didn't account for was the escalating inflation in healthcare costs. So what is having a tendency to happen, particularly in what they call the lowest 20th percentile of school districts, is that their healthcare funding is running away from them, and that is having a negative effect on their other expenses. So everywhere, in order to make that nut on healthcare, they're trimming the budget on teachers, materials, and technology. So this is one of the reasons that they suggested that the legislature review this. The reason they don't expect that to happen is apparently there's not a lot of political will in the legislature to do this. Partly, I think the fear is that the legislature will incur significant legal suits related to the sort of unfairness of the existing system. The whole thing is pretty labyrinthine, and sitting through, I think it was a 2 or 3 hour talk with a bunch of school committee people, we all had a lot more questions, and of course never got entirely satisfactory answers. And that's sort of the big problem with Chapter 70, is that even there was a guy who wrote it there, and he said, at this point, even I don't really understand it. So that sort of plays into what we discussed later in the day that day. We also attended General Assembly, and there was a presentation by Dr. Myra Levinson, She discussed the positive effects on student achievement where student, teacher, and community engagement and civic participation around schools has a tendency to raise student achievement levels. To me, one of the things that this idea I've seen in practice in our system is at Willett, they have a garden. So the Willett Gardens, to some extent, act as a good example because the gardens can be related back to their science, math, social subjects, civic engagement in terms of using the garden to feed underprivileged families, this kind of thing. So it was good to see that we're already doing some of the things that she suggested, and she's suggesting these things on a much bigger scale, but it was a pretty interesting discussion that she had. The Delegate Assembly, I'll just run down, and these are just a real quick sort of overview of what we discussed and voted on. These were mask recommendations for resolutions to the state legislature. The first was to perform a cost-benefit analysis of the financial and time impact of state-mandated reports and data submissions, as this seems to be having a negative effect on school districts' time spent on learning. So that was the first one. They created a resolution to modify the circuit breaker formula for out-of-district placements for SPED services. The third one was to transfer costs of medical expenses from school districts to health insurers and healthcare systems. The fourth was to provide funding for the educator evaluator system. The fifth was to recommend an adequacy study for Chapter 70. And the sixth and last was to elect governing boards for member districts of charter schools. So if you want the full language of all those, I have them here. I think they're available on the website. So those were all passed with a pretty overwhelming majority. Only the sixth one had any discernible votes voting nay. That was probably 15 out of 100. So, and that's about it. That's sort of the highlights of the weekend. Our next curriculum subcommittee meeting will be held on the 4th, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. And Chris, thank you very much for representing the committee as our delegate. I think a couple points on that when it comes to the Chapter 70 funding. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing that they don't want to fool around with it.
I know. Well, that was the way everybody felt about it in the room,
It
too.
does seem to be like how they pick the people who are going to play in the, you know, for the college national
In
championship.
fact, somebody said that exact same thing.
Well, exactly. You know, it should be noted, you know, our interim business manager, Dave King, had an extensive background in Chapter 70. And I try to do a lot of work in it from being the, you know, the past chair of the finance. And, I mean, it's just, the formula is incredibly, I don't think anybody can figure it out. I actually sat down with Dave for a couple hours to try to even, just what I did know already, to try to have somebody actually say, yeah, you're right, or no, you're wrong. And very confusing, and I'm sure Mr. Rose knows the same thing. And like I said, hopefully someday they will come up with something reasonable, but I'm not sure whether or not right now.
Not a lot of
I
political
feel
will for
good
that.
or bad.
Yeah.
Another point that you brought up about a superintendent being a presenter, our superintendent, Dr. Durkin, was also a presenter at the MASC conference, I believe on Wednesday. Dr. Durkin.
Yes, the day of the nor'easter. No.
And what was the topic?
It was on our HR Human Resource Grant, and I presented with Paul Dakin from Revere. And Brockton was also represented as the 3 districts that we've been working with over the year on our functions for human resources, how we're using those as leverage points with our education evaluation system. So there were about 25 both school committee members and superintendents who attended, and it was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday. That was the first day of the conference. So,
Go on Wednesday.
But it was challenging getting to and from the Cape, but everybody was safe, so it was good. But
That's quite
I
an honor.
enjoyed representing Attleboro there and also speaking to school committee members as to the work we're doing here, and they had many questions about how they could get this kind of support for their schools, for their districts, in terms of how do you use the evaluation tool as well as recruitment and induction. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Durkin. And thank you, Chris. Okay, moving on to Policy Subcommittee. Ms. Furtado.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had some motions made and approved for some policies, and they were tabled for 2 weeks. They're in front of you, so now those policies and exhibits go into effect. And our next meeting will be held on November 26th at 7 p.m. in this room. And I just want to let everybody know that the December 3rd policy meeting has been canceled because they are back-to-back from the November 26th one to the December 3rd. So with the administration and myself, we put everything on the November meeting. That should cover us through December, so we'll come back in January for policy. And on another note, I just wanted to let the committee know, and especially the policy subcommittee and administration, regarding our concussion procedure / policy. This actually recently became personal to me in the schools, and several specialists that I've had to actually bring my child actually to them, they said that they were very impressed with the paperwork that was filled out and that was presented to me as a parent, so I could bring forward to the specialists. So I just wanted to let everybody know that they commended and said Attleboro was doing a great job, that how they were following the protocol, how they were documenting what was done, what they will do, and working together with the families, and that they just said that it was very impressive. So again, on a personal note, I had to deal with that, but I just wanted to let the committee know and the administration that they in Rhode Island saw a couple of specialists and they were very impressed. So I just thought I'd bring that forward.
Thank you.
So thank you, and Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Furtado. Okay, at this time, we're going to enter into executive session after a short break. The reasons are to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiation with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiation with non-union personnel. Second reason being to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body. We will not be reconvening in open session.
Have a nice thing.
title screen,
Okay.
and then we'll,
I missed it afterwards, but I don't miss it anymore.
Not with